What is going on, YouTube? The season finale of The Nevers just came out. Episode 6. I have hiccups, so don't make fun of me if I go crazy hiccuping in this episode. We're going to talk about the biggest takeaways, the reaction, review, all rolled into one. I've got the chat loaded up, so be sure to hit me. Hit me up in the chat. Don't tell them to hit me. Hit me up in the chat. And we're going to talk about this episode. Episode 6 did a lot to explain just exactly what in the world has been going on in the Nevers universe. We were kind of left on the cliffhanger in the last episode with Malady being out and on the loose. We had seen from a couple of episodes ago the connection between Malady and True, Amalia. And we were kind of wondering what that was, something that they would probably elaborate on. Now we know this show is already likely going to get a season 2, and so a lot of this stuff they're explaining later. But I kind of like the idea that they just, decided to go ahead and have the show and make it fun and make it exciting, and then explain some of the other details a little bit later. And so that's what this episode really was. It's kind of different. I like kind of what Whedon did. Now, unfortunately, Whedon is no longer part of the project, so who knows how this story is going to continue for season 2. But let's just dive right into it. So I'm going to explain exactly what went down in this episode. So the episode starts out in a jarring setting. We're actually in the future. This is the future of London. It starts out by saying it's London, obviously, and it is an absolute wasteland. I mean, there's no it was to the point where the people in the episode did not really know what vegetation was in terms of them seeing it physically for themselves. Also, let me know, guys, in the comments below if you're able to hear me at all. I got the mic plugged in right here, but just let me know. Anyway, so they weren't sure what vegetation was even. The world had just been destroyed, completely gone. And what they had ended up discovering was there was a Galanthi. Remember, the big ship thing that had crashed and we saw that at the end of the episode 1 of this season. That was the Galanthi, the creature Galanthi. It's a creature, and spores come off of it, and that's what gives people their powers. Now, it crashes to Earth, but that was from the future, so there's time travel in this. Of course, duh. It's sci-fi, and so we're getting some time travel. So the Galanthi comes through. Remember, Lavinia Bidlow had actually alluded to the fact that this was not so much an egg, but more like a chrysalis. Saying that maybe this thing, and in a chrysalis, there's kind of a metamorphosis that goes on. This thing is maybe changing its nature and what it is and what it does. But basically, it follows the character Zephyr, okay, who we have known as True all this time. The real True is dead. The real True is gone from the beginning of the episode. What we know as True has always been now Zephyr. And Zephyr was a soldier from the future, as we saw in the beginning of this episode, who took her own life after feeling like the battle was lost and discovering this Galanthi. Now, the Galanthi, when it died, it was an emotional creature, and it had an emotional tie to those people. It took Zephyr, it took her, make sure I'm saying her name, Zephyr Alexis Naveen. It took her to the past, okay, and put her in this body, saying basically, let's try again. The portal was open, and the Galanthi decided to take it. Now, True ends up finding herself in an insane asylum, in this crazy ward, basically, and so she has to then prove that she's sane, basically. And she is sane, but with her new powers and with the Touched being relatively new, even though it was 3 years removed, roughly, in the timeline's kind of weird because our present is 3 years after the Touched event, really, but it's also before the future events of that post-apocalyptic London that we saw. So I'm just grabbing something real quick from the episode. I have to update some of the information in the bio for this episode so that people don't get confused, because I think the description still says that it's episode episode 5, which we had last. So True now has to convince people that she is sane, but this is where we get the understanding of the connection between Malady, aka formerly known as Sarah, and True, formerly known as Zephyr. So she arguably creates Malady, makes her insane. They were talking to this person who was responsible for eventually getting True out. We'll call her Zephyr from now on because that's really who she is. She took the body of True. Even that name came from her late husband's mother. Okay, so Zephyr creates Malady by spinning this tale about, oh, well, I just went along with her story because she really felt like she was getting better, and I didn't want to, discourage her in any way. And so this is what makes Malady go insane. And formerly known as Sarah, and Sarah then tells Zephyr in the previous or a couple episodes ago, you did this to me, you abandoned me. And at first we were like, okay, we don't get the connection, right? How is True connected? And it is because True killed herself really in the beginning in the first episode, and since then she has been Zephyr. And so that's really the interesting thing. And Zephyr is a war-torn, soldier. And so she has I guess, no remorse about what she did to Sarah and how she's now Malady. And Malady is just turned into a psycho Joker type. By the way, fantastic job. I think she's a great villain. She reminds me a lot of Joker, and I think it plays really well as a girl, especially for this show. So Whedon did a fantastic job. Unfortunately, like I said, again, he's no longer part of the project, and so who knows if any of this stuff that we're seeing, which was a great season finale, is going to be picked up on for the subsequent episodes and for season 2. We'll just really have to wait and see. But we finally found out that chrysalis is in fact the Galanthi, and it is a creature. It's sentient. It has emotions. It was actually being tortured in the future. I want to say back in the past. For some reason, my brain wants to go back there, but it's actually the future that they're coming from. They're coming from a post-apocalyptic London, and so she had her crew of people, and Mita, I think was her name. She was the one who died and was saying, I just want hope. Can you just say that we have hope? There's a chance that we'll beat these people and win this fight. There's a war between the humans and Galanthi, but basically the way that all these people are touched is from aliens. This, in a nutshell, this is a show about aliens, and they're the reason that we have mutants, basically. This is like Marvel. Well, Marvel does have mutants, but it's not Marvel in any way. This is just Joss Whedon. I don't want to confuse people here. But yeah, so that's how they end up getting their powers. So all of this is now connecting. So we saw in the past, we saw Mary Brighton and Mundi, who was not in this episode, neither obviously because Brighton is dead. Songbird, she's dead. But Mundi was not in this episode, and Malady is on the loose. So that's where it leaves us. And at the very end of the episode, you see Penance and Penance and Zephyr. I keep wanting to call her True, but I know she's Zephyr. By the way, guys, hit me up in the comments any questions or thoughts you had on the thing. Making sure the chat is here. Let's do live chat here so I can see your comments. Yeah, so at the end of the episode, we have them kind of coming back together, and True talks to Penance and says, look, I think it's time that we tell these people what is going on. Penance already knew about everything that was happening. This happened sometime before. They were just sitting in the lab, and she was like, yeah, I'm from the future and crazy aliens and aliens. You guys seen that meme? Anyway, that was just a little corny. Anyway, so she already knew, and now they're about to tell the rest of the touched people. They're about to tell them all that there is a war coming, and the future of London is already at stake. Now, we get into some questions about what's possible in the future. Is it even possible for them to change the future? That's a question that we don't know either. So we're going to find out in season 2, and who knows what of the story will be stuck to, if we'll see, whoever comes on to write later, if they're going to stick to it. Let me make sure I'm getting you guys' comments here. I think I just got one comment in here. But yeah, hit me with your reactions, guys. What did you think? Well, that was different and not what I was expecting at all. Absolutely. When I first turned on, and thanks for the Black Belt Jones, thanks for the comment. When we first started with this episode, I thought I was watching something else. I'm like, what is what is happening? But I did recognize Zephyr's personality. It was so weird how great, fantastic jobs by both actresses just nailing in that personality type, because I recognize Zephyr as True before we found out that it was true. But it was completely different tone. You found yourself wondering, what am I what am I watching here? I had to double check a couple of times, and the reason I'm on so late after the show tonight is because I wanted to make sure that I could actually explain what in the world just happened. So I had to do my research. I had to make sure that I was coming on with actual understanding of what happened in the episode. So yeah, so Zephyr was recognized from the beginning, and they're from the future. These creatures, extremely intelligent, Galanthi, they're at a war with them, really. But some of them have relationships with humans, but some humans are adamantly against the Galanthi and want to kill them at any chance, at any opportunity that they have. And so that's what we saw happening in the future. But they're very emotionally intelligent creatures, and they, I guess, had a connection with the scientists that helped develop, I guess, them and their cures and different things. I guess they were. That's kind of one of the weird things too. It's like, okay, well, you have your friends here. The Galanthi are these scientists' friends, but aren't they there because you're experimenting on them? Aren't they there like you're finding different things out about them and their biology and trying to come up with new medicines, new weapons, new things like that? Because these Galanthi are insanely powerful. They're able. I mean, think about this. Their spores create superpowers in humans. So you're talking about an unimaginable amount of power that they even have within them. We're still not too sure, guys, about the henchman of Lavinia Bidlow, though, because I was thinking about the Galanthi and the crashed, what'd she call it, a chrysalis down underground, and True had this vision, right, of the henchman coming down out of the cave or whatever and attacking her. Who's employing them? I mean, it's safe to assume that they are working for Lavinia Bidlow. But the thing is, if both the Beggar King and if Beggar King and Zephyr, aka True, are both working for Lavinia, why does she have so many close calls where her own people almost on an episodic basis? I mean, this is happening all the time, and she's just not letting them know, hey, you guys stay out of each other's way because they're both working for you. That's something that I think is a little bit inconsistent, but that's it's like a small thing in comparison to just how good I think this show is. The cinematography is really good. The story is really good. The action sequences are great. The character development is great. The fact that Malady, what a cliffhanger in the last episode. I really think that the last week's episode could have been the finale, and it probably they were playing around with the idea of having it as the finale. There were some things where this season finale, this episode 6, could have easily been an earlier episode. It could have came in before our episode 1, but maybe, at the cutting room floor they decided, we don't really need to tell all this backstory before we jump into the show. And so the show starts obviously with just Penance and True going to get Myrtle and finding another touched person and that kind of stuff, and it wasn't really necessary. And so I think that's why they decided to have it come in later, and it was really good. I thought it was really nice because a lot of shows don't have the finale where they explain everything. You know what I'm saying? Black Belt Jones says, who do you think the others who traveled back in time? Yeah, Malady is one of them. Possibly. Okay, here's the thing. Malady is Sarah, I guess you could call her. I don't think that she was one of the ones who came with the Galanthi. The Galanthi, when True died or Zephyr died, brought somehow a whole bunch of people. And we saw that flashback, the vision that True had. She said, don't think you were whoever was speaking there, the woman who turned to the side, she kind of went like this and gave the camera an eye. She had like a headdress thing, and she said, don't think that you were the only one. You think you're the only one who was brought here or something like that. So the Galanthi obviously brought more than one person. But I don't think Sarah was one of those people. I think Sarah's an unfortunate victim of the circumstances. True, obviously, she's a soldier living in an insane asylum. She knew how to manipulate the entire situation. I mean, when she was even talking to the psychiatrist and the people who were responsible for giving her freedom, she was saying, look, I basically run this place. Like I do everything. Like I take care of everything. Though I think one of the things that began that journey was obviously her relationship with Horatio, but also the fact that she was easily able to subdue that psycho who was cutting people up, saying that they were taking her babies or something like that. that. So that was all part of her strategic mind as a soldier to get out of this situation. She knew she wasn't going to win the fight just punching people. They were just going to lock her up. And Horatio had a funny line where he's like, well, maybe if you stop saying F so many times, you'll get out of here. So you can see she kind of let loose once she got out. But she had to rein in her tongue for that time in order to play that role. But she stumbled at the finish line by really compromising that character in being responsible for why Sarah is seen as crazy. I mean, she was kind of coming back to sanity, I guess you could argue, maybe, if she was ever really sane. What do you guys think, by the way? Was Sarah ever sane? She seemed like a stand-up gal, you know. She was a little weird, of course, but it seemed she didn't come off that crazy. And but obviously now with True kind of setting that up, saying, "Oh yeah, I was telling her what she wanted to hear. That's the reason that she was so crazy." I did explain the last episode last week as to why Malady is now free, because one of her henchmen she got to impersonate her, and we saw the switcheroo in the last episode. The true Effie Boyle is dead, and she was the woman that they found in the mine. With the blue jacket, she was face down and they wouldn't turn her over. I always thought that was weird. Like, why wouldn't they try to identify her, or how did they identify her without turning her body over? They can't see her face. It was caked in dirt and they could only see half of it. And it makes sense. They really didn't ID her, which is a little bit of a plot hole because usually police work, they try to identify the body. But she was able to, Malady was able to walk right into the precinct, taking on the personhood, taking on the identity of Effie Boyle, because they had never identified her at the scene of the crime. So that didn't make too much sense. But as a whole, I thought it was brilliant the way that she impersonated Effie Boyle the whole time, and the audience was fooled as well because we never really knew what Effie Boyle looked like. Once again, because she was face down in the ground in a mine and nobody ever turned her over to look at her face. So that was how she ended up getting free, and she's on the loose now. I do think that Malady will end up being a more minor character in season 2, and it's just because, not that she's not important. She's a great character, but now we've got bigger fish. You know, the Galanthi and the powers that be. Malady is a relatively small piece of that picture now, whereas she was an excellent villain for season 1 to kind of give True, aka Zephyr, kind of a yin and yang. It's definitely, it's going places that are bigger now, and I do think that we'll see more flashbacks forward and back. Back to the Future. Oh gosh, I hate to say that. Yeah, but Back to the Future, in order to find that out. I'm sorry, I missed one of the comments. Do I think something will be something? Yeah, it was a great makeup disguise. Yeah. Effie Boyle had a great disguise, but I think also they played into the fact that the audience didn't know what Effie Boyle looked like anyway. But I do think we'll see more future stuff thrown in with the past. Now they're kind of fighting with foreknowledge. Fighting with foreknowledge is great because knowing is half the battle. They have somebody from the future. They also have a leader, though, in Amalia, who quit. I mean, she gave up. She killed herself, you know? So, and whatever she was doing as leader, I'm not saying, I mean, she's a great character. She's my favorite character in the show. But True, her leadership ended with her team getting KO'd, for lack of a better word. And she's probably learned those lessons. So she's a veteran at this point and still probably the best person to lead the team because she has that knowledge of the future. But ultimately, she quit, and we don't want her quitting on the team, you know, as they're fighting against the future. And like I said, kind of in the beginning of the episode, we'll have to wait and see. We don't know too much about how or if the future can even be rewritten in this universe, because obviously she's coming from what she knows, and we're trying to find out if they can change it. Now she has the foresight of she has the help of people like Penance and Engineer and all these other people. Prim was absent from this episode. Prim was one of my favorite. She was a fan favorite for all of you guys. I've gotten so many comments about, oh, Prim's awesome. Yeah, let me know. I'm curious. What were your favorite characters in the show? I think True is obviously up there, but Prim was low key. She was a great character as well. Mundi. Hmm, hmm, hmm. But Malady, I think in a lot of ways, if she had gotten more screen time, I think she could have ran away with it. She could have stolen the show. Just she was just fantastic. I mean, just in her craziness. I mean, it was spot on. But let me know obviously what you think down below. I'll be chatting it up with you guys all week about this, so don't think that the comment section is dead at the end of the live stream. Questions, all that stuff. Also, hit me up on Twitter. I'm active on Twitter to keep the conversation going there as well, at Chris Grant Jr. Crazy story about Twitter. I don't want to really do story time because this is just a review, but real quick, let me tell you a story. So I got taken off of Twitter a couple days ago for not being older than 13. Now, the problem was, for some reason, when I set up my profile, it said I was born in 96. I was born in 97. So I was just like, let me change my year so that it's accurate. And then Twitter locked me out saying I had to be older than 13. Anybody born in the 1900s is older than 13. So I don't know why Twitter didn't know that. But anyway, I got locked out for a few days. Thankfully, I have some friends who could help me with my case and stuff like that. And so hopefully I'll be getting my Twitter restored. So I say all that to say, go follow at Chris Grant Jr. in order to keep the conversation going. I should be getting access to my account by Tuesday, I'm hoping. But until then, I'm here on YouTube, so hit me up in the comments, absolutely. But overall, guys, this was a great show and a great season of a great show. My biggest fear, guys, at this point is what is next, because Joss Whedon is he's not on the show anymore. So everything that we thought was great about the show is not guaranteed. You know, they're obviously, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the new writers do ask him and say, you know, Whedon, what did you have planned for this? Or where were you going with the story to kind of keep the heart of what he had going? Because this is a hit. I mean, this is a great show. I don't know why my camera keeps inching over to that. I think my microphone is like pulling on it when I do that. It's slowly, but maybe it ups the production because it seems like the camera's moving, like I have cameramen sitting on my desk or something. I agree. Just got a lot better. Yeah, it did get a lot better. It got better with time. The first episode, it was a little, could I say it was slow to start? It was a little slow to start. But certainly by the third episode, it was in full swing, and I was thoroughly, you know, I was like, oh man, this is great. And it was just pretty to look at. The cinematography and things were fantastic from the get-go. So that was all great. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Hold on. I have a ledger meeting. Oh, go follow our sister channel. If you're into tech and stuff like that, I have a YouTube channel called the Laraquente Ledger, my show, The Granted Geek Show. I'm reviewing the new iPad Pro and all that stuff, and obviously keep it locked here for your favorite movies and TV shows and stuff like that. I've got to meet with them in about 5 minutes or whatever. So thank you guys so much for joining the live stream. This has been a blast. Keep the conversation going. I will be there. I will try to answer all of your comments straight up, because I appreciate, you know, anybody who takes the time to join the conversation, grow the community, and all that stuff. Let me answer one other comment. Look, I'm so confused. I'm 5 minutes in. Ha! I ran into your YouTube channel by mistake. Okay, well, it wasn't a mistake because you're in the right place. This live stream, I was discussing kind of the episode. So let me boil it down to you. You're 5 minutes in. Let me give it to you in 30 seconds. So basically what's happening, I know you're confused. You're 5 minutes in and it seems like it's a completely different show. Basically, a character named Zephyr is now in the body of who you have known as True this entire season. She ended, her entire crew basically got killed after discovering a Galanthi, which you know as the egg chrysalis that's been down in the ground. So she decides to kill herself, off herself. She drinks some kind of poison stuff. The Galanthi says, no, we're not doing this. We're going to restart. It throws everybody back into the past, including some other characters who we're not too sure about yet. True, aka Zephyr, ends up in an insane asylum because the girl that she possesses by the name of True, her name was actually Molly, she was killing herself right at the moment that she got that the Galanthi came through the rip, came through the portal, and the spirit or the soul or the conscience of Zephyr went into her. So now she was taken into insane asylum because she tried to kill herself, and so the episode deals with her trying to prove that she's sane in order to get out of that. Now she has the knowledge of the future and what happens in the future, and so she starts to gather a team of special individuals. Insert your Justice League and Avengers jokes there, but she's creating this team in order to fight the future. Now Penance already knew. We remember at the last episode it was the death of Malady. I explained that But I won't go through this because this is just a nutshell right here. So at the end of the episode, we find out that Malady is on the loose and things like that. Zephyr was actually responsible for creating Malady because when they were in interviews, they were both two candidates for being released. But Sarah had some certain things that some theories, and she confided in that's what I'll say. She confided in Zephyr, and Zephyr used that to manipulate the psychiatrist in order to gain her own freedom while pitting or showing Sarah, aka Malady, to be a psycho. And so that's how Sarah became Malady, and that's why they're enemies, and that's why they know each other. Now, the voice that was in Songbird's song, aka Mary Brighton, was calling out to Zephyr, aka True, and it was the Galanthi speaking through her, calling her down to underground to go and find the Galanthi. And that is why Penance and True split at the end of at the beginning of the last episode when they said, she said, "Oh, I'll go try and stop." Penance said, "I'll stop Malady from getting executed," and True said, "I'm gonna go after the Galanthi." That was why, because the Galanthi was calling out to her. So at the end of the episode, whew, I think I kept that under like 4 or 5 minutes or whatever. At the end of the episode, they now True says, "I'm going to tell everybody what's going on. That we're fighting for the future. London is in a post-apocalyptic place, and we got to get this straight." And what was I gonna say? And so at the end, Penance, who already knew, she agreed, and at the end, Zephyr reveals her name to Penance as Zephyr. Whew! Yeah! That was it. Sorry, I just embarrassed myself on YouTube. I don't usually do stuff like that, so just erase that from your memory. We're going to try and move on from that. Anyway, I hope that explained it. That was kind of the last 25 minutes of what we've been talking about. So I've enjoyed the conversation. I always do. I'll be chatting it up with you guys all week. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and for joining the live stream, not the like stream. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bells. We're covering all your favorite shows, guys. Movies, Marvel, DC, Jupiter's Legacy, you name it. And we're always taking suggestions down below. So hit me with a comment. Hey, have you seen this show? I know a lot of people want to see Invincible. I know we want to get through that as a community together. We're going to get to that. Working on some stuff this week. Hopefully I'll get to it by the end of the week. We'll do some Invincible. I think it'll be cool. Yeah. Let me know. New stuff coming too. Loki, I'm going to be covering as well. So I know, Loki, Marvel stuff. Yeah. Thanks so much.